Hey everyone, welcome back. Getting into something a little different today, taking a deep dive into the world of American animation. We're opening up Darl Larsen's book, Moving Pictures. To trace those moving pictures, pun intended. We're going all the way from those early days to what we know and love today.
It's wild to think those early cartoons, they were practically sharing the stage with vaudeville acts.
Vaudeville.
Yeah.
Really? Like those old-timey variety shows? I never would connected those two.
Oh yeah, late 1800s, vaudeville was huge EE. Audiences ate it up, but
Oh,
yeah, gotta be real, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. A lot of the stereotypes, the humor of the time, it bled into those early cartoons too. Stuff that would make you cringe today.
makes sense, reflecting the social climate of the times, I guess. So how do we get from that to, well, Disney and all?
It's a journey. One of the early guys, a real pioneer, Winsor McKay, did Little Nemo, maybe you've heard Gertie the dinosaur.
Rings a bell, vaguely.
Well, McKay, he was all about that hand-drawn detail. Imagine the dedication, every frame, by hand, to get Gertie moving. It sounds crazy tedious. I can barely draw a straight line.
Uh-huh, right. But while he's doing that, two other names, he changed the game. Bray and Hurd. These guys, they come up with cell animation.
Cell animation, yeah. Isn't that basic? Like everything in animation uses that, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Before that, imagine drawing on stacks of paper, each one a tiny bit different. Bray and Hurd, they're like, what if? Transparent sheets. Draw the character once, move it on the sheet over a background, boom, cell animation.
Talk about a time saver. Suddenly you don't need 100 artists just to make a cat walk across the screen.
Exactly. Production explodes, studios pop up. It's like hitting fast forward on the whole industry.
And with studios comes the need for, well, stars. Gotta have those big name characters to draw the crowds in.
You're getting it. Now we're talking the rise of those big personalities. Fleischer Studios, they had Coco the Clown, always pushing the limits, and of course the one and only Felix the Cat from Pat Sullivan's studio. This cat wasn't just a cartoon, it was full-blown celebrity.
Merch, toys, the whole 9 yards. I guess some things never change. But hold on, I'm sensing a curveball coming. Not every studio was chasing stardom, right?
You're sharp. Paul Terry, over at Fable Studio, he had a different playbook. Didn't want the flash-in-the-pan fame, he was after consistency. Aesop's Fables, Farmer Alfalfa, those were his babies.
So like the reliable, familiar faces week after week.
You got it. Early days of, that comfy cartoon routine you could count on. But speaking of changing the game, sound hits the scene.
Oh yeah, can't forget that. Like movies going from silent to, well, talkies. Huge deal. I bet animation jumped on that fast.
Oh, absolutely. And nobody more so than Disney. 1928, Steamboat Willie drops.
Gertie's big debut.
With a whistle that became legendary. See, they use this newfangled thing, Cinephone. Sound, right on the film itself, synced up perfect. Totally changed the game for animation.
And I bet that whistle, that was like instant recognition, even back then. But Disney wasn't alone, right? Other studios had to be messing around with sound, too.
Oh, for sure. The Fleischer brothers, never ones to be outdone, they jumped in head first. Song cartoons. Basically animated sing-alongs.
Catchy. I can see it now. Whole theater singing along with a cartoon.
That was the idea. Then they had screen songs, popular music, but animated. They were really riding that sound wave.
It's one thing to hear it, but actually seeing the music come to life, that's got to be something else.
Exactly. It wasn't just about adding sound. It was this whole new way of thinking about animation. Suddenly, every movement had to be timed perfectly. Way more work for the animators, but man, the possibilities.
Yeah, you go from just visual gags to like dialogue, mood, music setting the scene, whole different ballgame.
And nobody played that game better, at least for a while, than Disney.
The big cheese. Okay, so we've got Mickey Mouse. What else were they cooking up?
You name it. Mickey's just the start. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in '37, first ever full-length animated feature film. Bam! Disney's on top of the world.
Talk about ambitious, a whole feature film, all animated back then. Must have taken them forever.
Oh, it was a huge undertaking. But it wasn't just about being first, they were innovating like crazy. Technicolor, for starters. Suddenly, cartoons weren't just black and white anymore.
I bet that was mind-blowing back then. Color TV, that wasn't even a thought yet, right?
Exactly. They were light years ahead. And the multiplane camera, oh man, that's a whole other story. Basically, gave the animation this incredible depth, like you could get lost in it.
They were really going all out, pushing the limits. But there's got to be more to it than just fancy tech, right?
Right, you are. Disney, they had this knack, see? They understood emotion. Their characters, they weren't just drawings, they felt real. They had hopes, dreams, fears, the whole shebang.
And people connected with that, even if it was a talking mouse or a singing puppet.
Exactly. Snow White, Pinocchio, Bambi, these were stories about universal stuff. Love, loss, good versus evil, the big questions. Disney, they knew how to make you feel it.
They weren't just making cartoons, they were making masterpieces. But even with Disney ruling the roost, other studios weren't just going to sit around twiddling their thumbs.
It's not a chance. Take Leon Schlesinger's Warner Bros. Studio. Now, they weren't afraid to get a little wacky, energetic, fast-paced, more about the laughs than the tears.
Looney Tunes, right? Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, that whole gang.
You got it. Those characters were bursting with personality, always pushing the buttons, stirring up trouble. Complete opposite end of the spectrum from Disney, but just as popular.
Yeah, sometimes you want that heartwarming story, sometimes you just want a good laugh.
Ain't that the truth? And a lot of those laughs we owe to one guy, Tex Avery. He was the master of zany, over-the-top humor.
I know the name, but not ringing any bells.
Well, let's just say, if a cartoon made you spit out your drink laughing, Tex Avery probably had something to do with it. He pushed the boundaries, man, constantly coming up with wild, wacky stuff that made you say, how'd they even think of that?
A true original. So we've got Disney doing their thing, Warner Bros. Carving out their own style, things are booming. But then, well, the world had other plans, didn't it? World War II changed everything.
Yeah.
From silver screen to, well, propaganda machine almost. Wild how animation can do that, be fun one minute, then serious the next.
It's a powerful tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communicating ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Wartime. Well, studios, they were practically part of the war effort. Training films, boosting morale, even straight-up propaganda.
So cartoons went from entertaining the troops to, like, rallying the folks back home too. Big responsibility all of a sudden. Any standout examples from back then?
Oh, tons. Disney, they had Der Fuhrer's face.
Yeah.
Picture this, Donald Duck stuck in a Nazi nightmare, working on an assembly line, surrounded by swastikas.
Talk about a messed up duck dream, but point taken, using humor to, I guess, undermine the Nazis.
Exactly. Satire at its finest. Even won an Oscar. Can you believe it?
An Oscar-winning propaganda cartoon. That's something else. What about Warner Bros? They must have had a field day with wartime cartoons.
Oh yeah, they went all in on their usual style with ductators, basically Hitler, Mussolini, Tojo, turn them into jokes.
So even in wartime, laughter's still a powerful weapon. Makes sense. Gotta find humor somewhere, right?
Absolutely. But even with a world at war, there's this new studio popping up, about to shake things up. United Productions of America, or UPA for short.
UPA, okay. Vaguely familiar, but fill me in. What made them so special?
They were different, man. Remember how Disney was all about realism, making those characters move and feel real? UPA, they went the opposite way.
So more, what, like stylized, abstract animation?
You got it. Limited animation, they called it. Fewer drawings, bolder colors, simple designs, but it worked.
Huh. Going against the grain. Interesting. What did they make with that style?
This little gem called Gerald McBoing Boing, kid who talks in sound effects, pure UPA, and then Rudy Toot. Whoa, boy, that one tackled some dark stuff. Infidelity, murder, you name it.
No more singing princesses, that's for sure. UPA sounds like they really pushed the boundaries.
They did. Influenced tons of stuff we see today, even commercials and stuff. But as the war ended, TV's on the rise, right? Whole new ball game again.
From the big screen to the small screen? Animation couldn't escape that shift, huh?
Nope. Theaters, they were hurting. TV was cheap, convenient, everyone had one. Studios had to adapt, and fast.
So some went under, others, what, reinvented themselves?
Pretty much. Hanna-Barbera, they saw the writing on the wall. TV budgets were smaller, sure, but the audience, way bigger.
Hanna-Barbera? Wait, those are the Flintstones people, right?
That's them. Yogi Bear, Scooby-Doo, they cranked out hit after hit, knew how to make TV work for them.
It's amazing. In just a few decades, animation went from, like, experimental films to being on everyone's TV.
And it didn't stop there. Feature animation, it made a comeback too. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Toy Story, they blew everyone away.
Blending animation styles, pushing the tech even further. Animation wasn't just for kids anymore, that's for sure.
Exactly. It's storytelling. At the end of the day, right? Whether it's on the big screen, the small screen, hand-drawn, CGI, it's all about connecting with the audience.
And animation, it's got this way of, like, bypassing your brain and going straight to your heart, you know? Doesn't matter how old you are, a good story is a good story.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's the beauty of animation. Always changing, always finding new ways to surprise us. So next time you watch a cartoon, remember, there's a whole lot of history behind those moving pictures.
Absolutely. From vaudeville stages to the CGI wonders we see today, it's been quite a ride. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, and be sure to check back for more explorations into the world of animation. Until then, keep those imaginations running wild.